Hi, Barbara.
Hey, Houston, how's it going?
Oh, it's grand. We just finished up a good PD. I know you got to sneak your head in there for a little while.
Where were we? Were we in California?
I'm in California. Professional development, I just had a chance to lead with an elementary schools up in Washington.
Washington. They were lovely. It was fun.
Aren't they lovely? They're such a rad.
Oh, that girl Emily just had that smile that warmed my heart. Shout out to Emily. I want to work with her.
And welcome everyone to today. We got like over 100 people already live here, which is awesome. As you're joining, drop in the chat who you are, where you're coming from. Barbara, what's a good question they could respond to in the chat? What's one of your favorite little relational nuggets?
I have a lot of them. I was kind of wondering if they're already using purposeful people. I thought that would be interesting, but maybe just where are you on your journey today? Because uncertain times, unusual times.
Yeah, oh, I like
Times of
that.
unrest.
How about this? One word to describe where you're at on your journey today. And you can take that word journey to mean whatever you need it to right now. Yeah, I feel you. The journey is real right now.
Yeah.
So looks like, I don't know if you're able to see some of the chat, Barbara, but we have people coming in from Texas, Illinois, Pennsylvania,
Colombia.
Colombia. We have people coming in from India, coming in live from Canada. Melissa says that they are using Purposeful People and love it in all caps. That's always a fun.
Oh, I see my friends in Clear Creek ISD right down the road. I'm in Friendswood, Texas, so they're right down the road.
Nice. Shannon's here from Forks, Washington. I'm about to embark on a road trip. I'm going to drive through Forks. Shannon, I'm going to be waving to you.
You're coming her way.
Right.
That's going to be so fun. So you're taking the coastal highway, are you?
Yeah, I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, but I've never done the PCH, Pacific Coast Highway, the one. So I'm gonna journey my way up to Washington, where I'm from originally, and hopefully get a chance to see my dad even at a distance. I haven't seen family for a while, so that'll be really meaningful to me.
Nice.
And the Character Strong team is based in Washington, so I'll get a chance to actually hang out with some people from my team, which is really nice.
Awesome. Stephanie says she's journeying toward vacation starting today, so she's pretty excited about that.
Nice, Stephanie. Perfect. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today. I know we have some folks live on Facebook. We got 130 people here to talk about PreK stuff, which is awesome, Barbara. I want to give a little mini introduction of you, and then I can let you fill in some blanks. But let me just introduce the world to Barbara Gruener. Barbara and I met for the first time at character.org because she was playing a ukulele and I was learning the ukulele at the time. And I don't know what it was, but I just like immediately resonated with Barbara's one of those people that has like tractor beam energy, you know, just like pulls you in because she's so joyful, abundant, all the things that you want to be about in your life, but she role models so brilliantly. She was a counselor for 36.
Well, I still am, so going on 37.
There you go, going on 37 years. I think you've worked at every level of school, elementary, middle, high school.
Yeah.
I've been hosted at Barbara's house a number of times in Texas, Chateau Gruener, and it's been amazing. She always cooks me meals, and it's always like the best home experience when I'm on the road, where I'm typically in hotels. And for deeper context related to today, Barbara helped create the original K-5 content and played a huge role in developing the PreK content that we'll be talking about today. Barbara, what did I miss? What do you want people to know that I didn't share?
Well, I really love tractor beam energy. I don't know if you made that up, but I am a farm girl from Wayside, Wisconsin. And so I'm just living in Texas, you know, the last 30-ish years. My husband, John, works at NASA, so we're kind of grounded here. But my Wisconsin roots, that nothing better, right, than Midwestern farmer's daughter who is, you know, raised milking cows, that whole work ethic thing. And thank you for your kind words. I was instantly drawn to you as well, right, because I was supposed to introduce you And you came over and said, hey, play the ukulele, or I'm learning the ukulele. And I said, oh, hello, I'm learning the ukulele. I'm Barbara, because I'm like, come on, kid, tell me your name. I had no idea who you were yet, but I ended up kind of following you around all weekend because I'm like, I need to know him. That's good energy right there. So I love working side by side with you and the Character Strong team.
Feel the same way. Thank you, my friend. Well, today, it's exciting. We actually, as of today, got a chance to go fully live inside. So if you're a Purposeful People user, you will notice that inside the toolkit, all the pre-K content is now available to you. The cool part about having it be an online platform is that things get to mobilize quickly, which is great. So that content is live, and my goal today is to show off a couple of those pieces. And Barbara and I, we both kind of came prepared with some of our favorite activities, and we didn't tell each other. So it'll be fun to see if we have some overlaps. I'm going to share my screen, Barbara. So
I'm so excited to see it. It's going live today. That's awesome.
Isn't that fun?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to optimize for perfect, and I'm going to go right over here. So if this is, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the curriculum site and what it looks like, you're looking at it. And the navigation bar, depending on what you have access to as a school or a district, will have a variety of different things. So we have our advisory content, which is middle school and high school oriented, our leadership content, leadership curriculum, middle school and high school oriented. We have our gym, which is sort of a full spectrum resource for schools. Some of the other things that I've been really excited and proud of are our on-demand PD, which is like sort of bite-sized content for staff to continue to get fed in terms of things like responding functionally to behavior, cultivating well-being, creating a nurturing environment for students, all kinds of cool resources. But if you're a Purposeful People user, you hop in here and there's our 10 traits. These 10 traits were born out of survey data from students and staff and families saying,
Well, my goodness, it looks like we lost Houston. Barbara, can you hear me? You're muted.
we are back. What? This is the second time today. Zoom just kicked me out. I don't know if you guys, I can only imagine the sort of trash you were talking while I left. Are we okay, Barbara? Can you hear me still? Uh-oh. Wait, I can't hear you for some reason. There we go. Can you hear me, Barbara?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. We're back. We...
Take two.
Perfect. Yeah, are we going to talk about, why don't we have flexibility as one of these words? Or
There needs to be creativity.
Creativity and perseverance. Yeah, what's hard, you know, like in person, it like if something happens, you can like problem solve in the moment, but sometimes you're like helpless to the whims of Wi-Fi. You know, you're just like, what are you doing, Zoom?
That sounds like a blog post, the whims of Wi-Fi. I love it.
Whims of Wi-Fi. Yeah, we should write about that for virtual learning.
Let's do it.
Anyhow, what we were saying was that we have these 10 traits that we're trying to cultivate in ourselves and in the young people that we serve. And if you've ever seen some of the other webinars we do on the toolkit, you know that we have robust tools for each of these traits, everything from classroom content to family challenges and family letters home. We have staff challenges to make sure we're role modeling as adults. We have playground tools and reading lists. And the most recent iteration is PreK. So I want to share, I guess I'll do this, Barbara. I want to talk about the way we built each of these, and then we can share a couple of our favorite activities.
Sounds good.
So you'll notice in the PreK content that it looks similar sort of thematically to some of the other content that you'd see in a classroom model. But instead of breaking it down into tiny, tiny pieces in our serve model like we do K through 5, we decided PreK was a little bit of its own beast, and we wanted to provide just really practical low burden tools for that classroom environment. So like every other grade level, you always got to start with common language. So you'll always start by talking about the trait. These images are designed to be downloaded, printed, or projected, right? They're high resolution, so you can put them up on the screen or print them out and put them in your classroom, tweet them out, whatever you want to do with those. But then each trait is broken up into 3 main components plus a bonus component. Starters. What are practical ways to begin each day? Maybe it's at the beginning of a week or each morning during a morning circle or a morning meeting. You'll find activities, which are anywhere from 2 minutes to 20 minutes. Practical ways to put this trait into action experientially and have some conversation about it, or just moments of play related to that trait. And if we're going to start thoughtfully, we should also end each day thoughtfully. So bookending our day with a morning circle and maybe a closing circle as well, a morning meeting and a closing meeting. However your day is structured, these are practical ways to wrap up a week or a day. And the bonus section that I'm really excited about is we have specifically books with a courage theme that are age appropriate. And what we've done for these, which is unique to the PreK section, is we've created intentional activities for a couple of the books for each trait so that you can attach an experiential learning lesson to the reading of the book if you decide to incorporate that book into your classroom. So that'll start me off with my favorite, and I'm just going to go trait by trait, Barbara. My favorite in the PreK content is Brave Blobs. I just, first of all, love the name, and it relates to the book called Mixed. It's a story of red, yellow, and blue living together and separately because they each thought that they were better than the other. Took courage for a blue and a yellow dot to mix and bring everyone together. Seems topical and relevant right now. We've been talking often and seeing some beautiful posts about it's never too young to start talking about diversity, start talking about racism. So how do you do that in a way that feels natural and integrated into the experience? Well, Brave Blobs, first of all, the book Mixed, followed by Brave Blobs is a really cool side, like intersection of those two. So Brave Blobs, the activity is to have students create brave blobs using straws and watercolors and googly eyes, key ingredient to any good activity. Mix cups filled with colored paint, liquid watercolor, 2 teaspoons of water, hand out cardstock or heavier paper and have teachers drop tiny droplets of paint onto each paper. Students will use the straws to blow out the watercolor in different direction, creating little paint creatures. Use googly eyes to add character. Talk about how it requires courage to stand out and be different. That one's my favorite. Do you have any favorites in the courage toolkit, Barbara, that you remember thinking about or building out?
Yeah, go back up. I believe a little song that we created that's based on the BINGO song. Did I see it? Oh, there it is.
There it is.
All right. So yes, because we're adding sign language. These kids are not too young really for anything. We have to meet them as learners. I love the idea of sign language. We're asking them to do letter recognition. So anytime you can throw in your numeracy or your literacy in with your SEL to weave it and build it into the fabric of what you have going on. So it's not a one-off or it's not a stop everything, it's time for SEL. No, it goes in. So we're spelling anyway. So it would go, and I'm not a singer, but here we are. We are strong and we are brave and we show courage daily. C-O-U-R-A-G-E, 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 and we show courage daily. Ah! And then, but it'll slower, you'll go slower because they're little. And okay to try to get them to clap that and then maybe jump it, or, you know, the sky's the limit. They need to move. So let this be like so kinesthetic for them. And then if they can add the sign language, we have given you the ASL right there.
Beautiful. And I loved having Barbara's voice in creating these things. We pulled together a team of educators from different walks, right? People who, classroom teachers, people who are district SEL coordinators, people who were award-winning teacher of the year. We have Barbara, longtime counselor, my friend Esteban, who's an educator and entertainer, Albert, an award-winning teacher who made sure we had some thoughtful diversity in the books that we selected. It was just an awesome, we came together, we did work parties, which was super fun, where we would spend 90 minutes and we would come up with these ideas together and give each other feedback to iterate and grow. And that was something you came back to a lot, Barbara, is we gotta be kinesthetic, it has to be integrated, it has to sort of tune into things that they know, like the tune of bingo, but to translate it into things that are meaningful, like courage. This one is actually one of my favorites as well. Barbara has a knack. She says she's not a singer, but she is a songwriter. I think she's actually a singer-songwriter, and she just won't own up to it.
Well, the ukulele helps me out because I can hide what I don't have in a voice, but it has to also be playful. And I think what I liked so much about those work parties is that we were physically distanced, but we had a chance, you know, virtually to come into one another's world and help each other fine tune and make it playful. Something that we didn't have, and I was kidding Houston about it, but not really. I wish we would have done that for Purposeful People as well when we wrote it, because instead of just feedback in a Google Doc, to actually have that, ooh, did you think about this? Or, oh, it flows better if you say it this way. And to really have that collaboration, that's what I think makes this piece really strong.
Yeah, that collaborative process was such a good learning process for all of us, I think, in terms of curriculum building. And we got to dig into, yeah, people's unique gifts coming together to form what you see here. So this one's respect. This is the PreK Toolkit. And here's one way that you could start a week or start a day doing virtual field trips. Now, what we like to do is provide options, but also not limit it. Like, you don't have to use the images we provided here, but we thought it would be fun to provide you a few examples of what we were talking about. The idea would be to start the week, or to start each week even, use a slideshow to set up different locations. Maybe it's the library, beach, gym, bookstore, and pretend like you're at these places. Discuss on your virtual field trip how you would behave in each place and how those behaviors can show respect. How loud do we talk when we're there? Do we walk? Do we run? Do we jump? And using that as a practical way to dig into the concept of respect. All the images are in here, so you could say, what does it look like to show respect here? What does your version of respect look like in this place? And maybe how is it different from other people's version of respect? And how do we make sure that we're meeting people in the middle so that we can find some semblance of mutual respect in these places? Do you have anything in respect you remember, Barbara? That's a fun one.
Nothing that's jumping up to me, but again, well, this Are You Listening one is nice. I think anytime the songs are going to always just seal the deal for me. But this respect here, this one, you'll recognize it from first grade. RESPECT, knowing it and showing it, giving it and living it. But really, again, making it like they're not all snapping yet, but giving them the option to RESPECT, or, you know, say, oh, playmate, that old RESPECT, making it tactile, and then letting them come up with knowing it. Do I want to do like point to my noggin for knowing it? Or maybe it's in my heart. I don't know. Let them decide. And showing it, and then giving it, and then living it however they want to come up. And then what does that look like, sound like, and feel like, that they can come together and help decide how that looks. And it can almost be a springboard for a social contract.
Yeah, I love that. And part of the beauty of the toolkit model is that it is designed for teachers to take their own creativity, amplify it, and say, okay, how do I translate this into the next thing that I want to talk about? It's supposed to be woven in, as you mentioned, not a whole separate piece. about perseverance. Perseverance, another sort of term for resilience, grit, the ability to persist over time towards something important, which we know one of the key indicators of success. This is one of my favorite ways to start the class, called One Thing at Once. To start the week, have students practice doing only one thing at once and see how long they can focus on one task, like smile with all your teeth showing, or spin your hands above your head, or run in place. Perseverance requires us to stick to tasks for long periods of time. So a silly, simple one that allows us to just even plant the seed at the beginning of a week. All right, let's see how long we can stick with this thing or this thing. And then using that as a conversational piece of like, what else do we need to stick with today? Or what else are we trying to stick with this week that might seem hard or feel like we can't do it at first, but through practice, we can persevere. Did you have any favorites in this one, or should we jump to gratitude?
Well, we can jump, but let me make the point. A lot of these, we tried to make it tactile, but of course we had the discussion. What is touching going to look like when we're back in school? So anytime we tried to make like, you know, shake a partner's hand or, you know, make a bunny trail, whatever, train, dancing with your partner. We of course know that these are unusual times and that if we go back, man, perseverance is going to have a whole new meaning in trying to make sense of what it looks like now. So some of these we did with a lens, but we also said, gosh, when we're back to a safer touching, or we have really good protocol with sanitation stations, that some of these look a little even more engaged, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's sort of the gift of building these tools during this time, as we had to be conscious of how do we make sure that these things are adaptable for whatever circumstance your school is in. And talk about perseverance as we're coming back. We're going to have to persevere through a lot of new normals and a lot of challenges as we go. But even while persevering, a lot to be grateful for. This is actually one of my favorite series of activities that we pulled together. This one in particular, I remember Esteban sort of sharing, and I figured maybe it was you, Barbara, or someone else who brought up this Mr. Rogers video that is awesome. It's Mr. Rogers talking about how crayons are made. And the whole premise of this activity is called How Does This Work? So as a class, find something that we use together every day and realize and think about how it was made, all the parts that go into it. For example, a chair is metal and plastic and wood, etc. And then have a discussion on how being thankful for the small things and learning to respect all of our supplies. So you can show this Mr. Rogers video where he talks about how crayons are made. And then afterwards as a class, you can thank the crayons and then use the crayons to have students draw something that they use every day that they're grateful for, like chairs, markers, beanbags. So a lot of different ways to approach this. The whole premise, though, of course, would be when we understand how things work and we break down things that even we take for granted into the smaller parts of, oh my goodness, did you know that in order to just even have this crayon, X and Y and Z has to happen first? And the more like detailed my gratitude can be, sometimes the more impactful it can be.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this, maybe if this is one where we talked about thank your body parts, thank your hands for helping, like all things that they can thank, things that we do. Here it is. Yeah. Eyes, thank your ears, thank your mouth, like really get them. This is gratitude and mindfulness, a great time to start to put that on their hearts and minds as they're learning to savor and be grateful.
Yeah, you are the absolute best at pulling together that like specified piece. You have this 5 senses gratitude, but you also have down here a rainbow of gratitude. It's one of my favorites. You put into a bag different things and they pull it out, and as they pull it out, whatever the color of that thing is, it associates with something that they have to be prompted into gratitude for. So I love that idea of just like helping people get specific with their gratitude by using interactive tools to bring those things to life.
And starting them when they're so young. I love that.
Absolutely. How about honesty? We talk about honesty, if we come up to the top here, as living truthfully in our words, actions, and thoughts. So one of my favorites down here at the end is even just as simple as closing the day. But at the end of the week, intentionally put some things in the quote unquote wrong spot as you're cleaning up the classroom. Ask students to identify when something isn't going in the right place. You can use hot and cold to have them guide you to the right spot for each item. A fun way to learn honesty while cleaning up. So I love these because very rarely are these traits one-dimensional, right? There's a lot of intersectionality that happens. These traits cross-train all the time. And so the practice of putting honesty together with responsibility breeds a cool idea like this. Do you have a favorite in here?
I think just all of them. We tried to weave in friendship, because our honesty is the basis for a friendship. To get some really, really good books. I think factor fiction, like fantasy or fiction. You know, it's like 3 truths and a lie, only, you know, for littles, because developmentally it's not really considered lying when you tell a story, right? Because they're so little and they're still learning. So we really tried to do it through a lens of, you know, how do we help them understand the importance of trust in a relationship, but also speak their 4- and 5-year-old language.
Yeah, I love this like practical one where students can draw this, oh my goodness, draw this card, and then you have an opportunity to have that conversation. And there's always some fun things that you bring forward, Barbara, that I wouldn't have thought of just because of your experience at that age level, like you pet cat or Doc McStuffins. These are things that are outside of my normal area of expertise, but bringing those things forward was a really fun part of the process. Kindness, of course, my favorite thing to talk about. And this one, Kind and Go Seek, was one of my favorites that we pulled together for the toolkit. Have students walk around the room in pairs or as one large group and tell them that the world, or you, has hidden things in our room that we have to find so we can practice being kind. As they hunt around the room, they must announce to you or to their partner what they found and how that item that they found could be used for kindness. So you can use the room as it normally is and see how they can connect everyday objects to kindness, or you can actually hide a few items like thank you cards, treats, smiley faces that they could use to make their partner's day. So a cool thing where it's like me and another person are searching around the room to find or discover these things. And then the question, of course, is like, let's draw a line. How do you use this pen to be kind? How could you use this cubby to be kind? How could you use this jacket to be kind? And making those connections with everyday objects is a cool thing, sort of developmentally, for them to orient themselves in the world, that the world is rich with ideas and ways to practice kindness every day. As I scroll, you tell me, Barbara, if there's something that stands out to you.
Oh, again, just kindness to self, the balloon breathing, that's just a mindfulness thing. Anytime, again, the songs, you know, just kind of sealing their deal. But this balloon breathing where you're just filling your belly up like a big balloon and then taking it down, and then giving them opportunities to practice, because some of this is going to be new to them.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. This is where that intersection with social emotional learning, you know, the technicality of that term is we're talking about self-regulation. So the exercise of self-regulation is often an act of kindness towards yourself, because when we're feeling unregulated or overwhelmed or anxious, and we don't have tools to help us navigate that, then we start to make decisions that are unhealthy for others or harmful to ourselves. And so I think even just connecting that dot, hey, taking care of yourself, having tools to self-regulate is an action of kindness towards yourself. And something as really practical as feeling this balloon, a really simple way to engage students in that sort of practice. How about empathy? Boy, these conversations feel hyper relevant right now in the world today. So we have a couple of different ways that we practice empathy. Here's one of my favorites, a way to start the week by asking students if they can guess what the person, animal, or item is feeling. I like to include item. I like the noun feelings premise. I like even the intro into personification, and again, providing some sample images so people can to follow along. So what do you think? What do you think this chick is feeling right now, Barbara?
Well, he's pretty little. He might be feeling pretty small, although he looks kind of confident. So I could see the conversation going in a couple of different directions.
Absolutely. You know, what's interesting is there's actually been, in working with our research partner, learning a lot about new research, even on emotions. They've discovered that faces and the traditional faces we show students aren't always perfect indicators, right? They don't always correlate directly, which is what's interesting about this conversation. Is someone could look at this chick and say intimidated or small, and someone else could say confident. And both could be equally accurate, which is what makes emotional literacy a fun challenge. And having tools like this for people to practice building it is a meaningful part of the work. I'll scroll down if you see something pop up for you, Barbara. I know you had a...
Well, I know that we had another one on shoes. We had empathy in a shoebox for the older ones, where we put a script and we read that and they decide how that person is feeling. But in this one, instead of write the story, let the kids write the story. So, you know, maybe bring a slipper or some baby shoes or a, I don't know, gardening boot or something, and then ask the kids to intentionally imagine. Houston, I think you're the one who said empathy truly is just intentional imagination. So how do we practice imagining whose shoes are these and where are these people going and how do they feel? And pretty soon you've got this amazing story, how 4 and 5-year-olds are seeing it, right? So we can step into their stories while they're stepping into the story in the activity.
Absolutely, giving them ownership over the process, and fun to bring in even one of your own shoes as the educator to see what they tap into or what they don't. Whose are these? Where are they going? How do they feel? And seeing how accurate that is based on perception, and a really fun exercise, even from a staff to student lens, to feel a little sense of connection to their experience. Responsibility. We define responsibility as to take action and understand how our choices affect others, ourselves, and the world. I like that definition of responsibility a lot. To be in action and to have that action be rooted in understanding of, like, every time we do something, it doesn't just impact me, it has an impact on the people around me, and it impacts the world in some way. So one of my favorite ones that we built together here is the responsibility hop. Again, motion being a key ingredient. Begin by asking students to squat into a crouching position. Read a list of common chores that children might be responsible for in their home. If they have done this chore at home, have them do a hop in their spot. I'm responsible for picking up my toys, clearing my dishes after dinner, feeding my dog, making my bed, wiping out my spills. And of course, you'll know your students better than we could. You could add some of those, adopt. You could change it so it's more classroom related. If students are actually have some responsibilities in the classroom for how they're supposed to show up or check in, or if they have parts of the classroom that they're responsible for in their center or their cubby. So lots of ways to incorporate even just this movement into taking ownership over what we are responsible for.
And then if they're hopping anyway, you may as well throw up the bunny hop and let them dance. So there are so many ways to just ping off of what the seeds we're planting here to do what works best with your school family.
Yeah, and you mentioned this earlier. How do we translate something from like a respect activity and put it into some just basic social contracting or a class agreement, instead of presenting norms to the class? Having people feel ownership in that process is really important, and bringing in the diverse voices that you have and the diverse experiences. How do we want to feel? So brainstorm 3 to 5 feelings you want to feel as a class. Maybe you want to feel calm or happy or loved or safe. Then brainstorm what the class will need to do in order to feel that way. Listen, respect other people's boundaries, say kind words, smile as we walk, and then create a poster with this as their class family agreement. Have students sign the agreement using a thumbprint stamp, which is my favorite version of a signature, and wish I could sign all of my checks that way, or official documents. And whenever it felt necessary or practical, we have images so you could kind of see an example. And of course, as the educator, you are sort of leading this and being the one who's writing things down, and then giving them ownership with the thumbprint at the end, so it feels like a true collective effort.
Yeah, this is such a great example. I love that one.
How about cooperation? Do you have a favorite in cooperation?
Okay, is this one where we're doing the hokey pokey because the hand has to cooperate with the arm, which cooperates with the shoulders? I think so. You called it robust, and I was like so taken by that compliment. There it is, the cooperation hokey pokey.
I love it.
Yeah, cue the music and start, but instead of you do the hokey pokey and you turn the world around. When we work together, we can turn the world around. That's what it's all about. And so some discussion questions there. Who helps the fingers? Who helps the hand? Just to set the scene, and then we're going to cue the music, have a brain boost, and you know, kind of seal the deal with a little dance.
Absolutely. And you are the master of those tweaks to make sure that those lyrics are in line with learning, which I love. And I just love the premise. Who helps the fingers? I mean, seriously, underrated, the support that the wrist has and the tendons have. And I mean, who helps the hand that does so much helping all day? We got to talk about these things, the unsung heroes of the body.
Of course, we're teaching body parts at the same time. And then if you wanted to, you could throw in Spanish, dedos and mano and brazo. The Spanish teacher in me also wants to maybe do head and shoulders, knees and toes with that activity. But it gives you options, right? To jump and scaffold and springboard and all of that.
Absolutely. And I mean, again, the toolkit approach is designed to be mutually adaptive in the sense of teachers want autonomy. I mean, what we've learned from this process is that the real time is the framework building. It's the getting it on the page and providing all the options. But the real meaning behind this work always comes from teacher autonomy, teacher creativity, teacher ownership. So you seeing this idea spurs you to think, oh, I could incorporate Spanish into this, or head, shoulders, knees, and toes, and weave those things together. That's the beauty of this. We don't want this toolkit to be prescriptive, because we know, especially at the elementary level, the creativity, the playfulness that you want to express, we just want to provide the platform for you, the foundation for you to build on. Creativity. I think this one is my personal favorite PreK toolkit. We went wild in this. I remember the brainstorm being like, we could do anything.
Well, you and Esteban, man, your brains are just pinging all over the place on these.
Yeah, for those who need some context, one of the people I wrote this with is my roommate, Esteban, who is just one of the goofiest people on the planet. So he would put ideas that were like so bizarre and so fun. And then Barbara would be like, well, we need to make sure that it incorporates this and this. So it's just like such a cool intersection of expertise and silliness and education and entertainment that have come together to create this. Really an exercise in creativity, which we define as using your imagination, intentional imagination, to create something or solve a problem, right? So what are we building for the world, or what are that's already in the world that we could use to solve a problem? So come down here, right, there's a bunch of really fun ones. This one's one of my favorites, just the question, what if? And intentionally asking that to start each day. What if for an entire month, you just ask the question, what if? What if we stood somewhere new today? What if instead of standing in a circle, we made a square? What if you had to move like the person next to you? What if everything we did today was blue? What if your family was at school today instead of you? What if you said something to someone that made them feel special today? And giving students an opportunity to wrestle with that creative process and use it to target movement or even exercises. Obviously, this one starts to intersect with empathy and respect and kindness, and bringing those things together thoughtfully. Did you have one in here, Barbara, that was one of your favorites?
I just loved watching you guys create. I always think, oh, I'm not that creative, but just breaking down that mindset that really anything is possible. I love that trace your shadow. That was super fun, because doesn't that take them outside to try to find the sun? We were just trying to come up with everything and anything to get them engaging with one another, to get those relationships built, and to let them know that anything's possible, really to foster that growth mindset, which most of those learners come to us with 100%, right?
Yeah, absolutely. and to make sure that we're emphasizing it, because we know that the teaching of growth mindset it's hard to do explicit. It actually works better to weave growth mindset in over time. You want to give students framework and language and understanding, but the real depth of learning growth mindset is to experience moments where you experience growth mindset. So I love this one: color the shapes, draw faces, see what creative creatures you can come up with, and how you can use traditional objects or things that we take for granted as opportunities for exploration or imagination or creativity. That's what we got. These are the brand new tools. And as you could tell, as I'm sort of scrolling through them, there's a ton of content in here. I love some of the intentionality that we had with these books from a lot of perspectives, making sure that we had a cool representative group of authors and books, but also incorporating activities into the books, which we know that teachers love the read alouds, but how cool would it be to attach that read aloud to something experiential or hands-on. Barbara, any other thoughts?
Emily Arrow right here with Ish. Emily, if you don't know Emily Arrow, she has a ukulele and it's called Bo, because it's Bo and she's Arrow. She is amazing and kids love her. And so there's a link to supporting the book Ish with a song that she wrote about Ish. And even if they're just dancing, they're soaking it up, they're savoring, and it's super fun.
Yeah. And I feel like Barbara knows all of these like awesome artists and YouTubers and bloggers. I think Barbara's on every webinar that the planet has to offer around social emotional learning and empathy. So she has so many cool resources that gets to be plugged into this to make it hopefully just enrich, right? Enrich or provide opportunities or new directions. So again, as a quick overview, the way that these pre-K things work, if you're looking in the Purposeful People Toolkit here, you'll notice that underneath each of the 10 traits, there's a lot of different things we could click on. They've all been updated. If you're a Purposeful People user, these are live today. They've been updated with this pre-K content. And for each of the traits, it'll always start with that common language piece, starters, activities, closers, and then books related to the trait. And that is our new updates to the pre-K content. Super excited to share that and continue to allow schools to go deeper on this work and start them younger, because we got to start them younger. We have a couple of people dropping some questions in the chat, which are really awesome. Someone said, regarding the Purposeful People curriculum, for older students, are we reworking it for social distancing and distance learning? If so, how and when do you anticipate it being ready? Yeah, we have a couple of commitments that we're making organizationally to coming back in the fall. And that's going to be to provide a couple of resources that allow you to take the work that's already in there and suggest adaptations for different types of activities. So if the activity involves circling up, how do we adapt that to physical distancing? If it involves circling up, how do we adapt that to virtual learning? So we're going to provide a guide of best practices that allow you to use the toolkit no matter what your circumstance is. What we've learned from schools is that they're coming back in 15 different potential realities. And instead of providing qualifiers for everyone and creating pages and pages more in the toolkit, we want to provide you with the tools to adapt most effectively to what your circumstance is. So we'll provide some best practices around the different types of activities that we know we have included in the curriculum. And we're also making a commitment to doing the same thing through the lens of equity and racial justice. So providing a toolkit for, this is our really strong core belief at Character Strong, is that these tools, these skills, right? If we don't cultivate these skills thoughtfully and intentionally, then having conversations around social or racial justice are really challenging, right? We need a foundation of respect and empathy and courage to engage in these conversations. And so what we've learned through listening and in conversations with people that we trust on work like this is that it's not enough just to say, hey, here's 3 activities about anti-racism. No, it needs to be woven in. And so not only are we going to create a resource that allows you to integrate social and physical distancing where you need to, we'll also be providing a resource that allows you to bake in the concept of equity or conversations around allyship or conversations around race throughout the entirety of the toolkit. And that's going to be on a school-to-school basis, on teacher-to-teacher basis, because one of the things that we know is trying to integrate that work without having a staff prepared to do that work can sometimes do more harm than good. So those are a couple of the commitments we're making organizationally as you're coming back in this new school year, which we know is going to be fraught with a lot of opportunities for challenging conversations and new realities that we're facing. Boy, am I glad that there are educators like you all who are ready to tackle some of those things. We're here to do that alongside you. Krista just dropped into the chat an opportunity to download some samples. If you're interested in checking out more about Purposeful People, we've given a discount code for those of you who are showing up live today. And that discount code will be live through the end of the week. So just a few days to use that. It's $150 off of the toolkit if you purchase by Friday. And the final thing that the team will be dropping in the chat is a link to a couple of our upcoming trainings. We have a training coming up shortly this Thursday. It's our final school culture training of the year. We've done this for now over 2,500 educators globally since the beginning of COVID and some of the new realities we've navigated. We've trained over nearly 3,000 educators digitally at these school culture trainings. They are so fun. And the final one that we'll drop into the chat is a link to our relaunching relationally roadmap training. This one I'm really excited for. In fact, I'll show you a little preview. This is a sneak preview. I haven't shown anyone this yet, but we've been working hard on this. And I'm so pumped to show this to you. The premise is, what are we gonna do as we come back to the school to put a focus intentionally on relationships when we come back. So if you join us for the webinar tomorrow, I'll go deeper in more depth on what this looks like. But here's a little preview of what it's going to be. We need tools to put a focus on relationships thoughtfully, not just day one, day two, but leading up to school, the first few weeks of school. What are we doing to maintain a focus on relationships? I'll dig into this map tomorrow on the webinar. I believe it's tomorrow at the same time, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I can't wait to share some of that with you all. In the meantime, we will drop that link into, there we go. It's in the chat. Tomorrow's webinar, Relaunch Relationally Roadmap. Would love to see you there. That one's gonna be a fun one. Can't wait to share some of those tools. Lots of tools to share. Barbara, thank you as always for your enthusiasm and expertise, your ukuleleisms, and your unreal capacity for just giving so many people so many tools in so many places. I always love just like tuning into your brain to think, how can we take this thing and tweak it to make it this thing, which we could then turn to make it this thing. And you have just such a genius at that. So what a gift. What a gift to spend a little time with you today and see your face.
Thank you, Houston. I also wanted to thank you on behalf of all educators like me that are just hungry for tools. I guess last week, Michelle Borba said hungry for affect. So if I could use her words, we're just hungry for affect right now. And it's those connections and it's that ideal of character strong that in the end of the day, it's just all about relationships and how we do this holy work, but how we do it together.
That's right.
With your support.
Oh boy, yeah, we can't do this stuff alone. So I'm grateful we get to hang out together occasionally like this, Barbara. Say hi to John for me. Say hello to my bedroom for me. And make some
pain. Come on back to the B&B anytime.
You the best. Thank you everyone for joining today. As usual, these webinars are recorded. You can always find them on our Facebook. You can find them on our website under past webinars. And if you get a chance, follow us on Twitter, hang out with us there. We have our hashtag CS Chat, our weekly 17-minute Twitter chat. That's tomorrow. And you can always join us on our Facebook educator group where we keep you up to date on all the latest Character Strong happenings, and it's a cool community that supports each other. Krista just dropped a link to that Facebook educator group. Lots of places to stay connected, and I hope to see you in one of them very soon. Make it a great